Full slate of games in college football, including every Big Ten team in action in week number 2. Along with Eric Rogers, I'm Rich Reynolds. This is our Big Ten wrap-up presented by Jason's Deli. And the game that I was fixated on yesterday, of course, happened a stone's throw away from our studios over at Camp Randall Stadium. The Wisconsin Badgers coming out victorious. And if you look at the game and the final score and some of the stats that were put up by running back Jonathan Taylor gets a career high in yardage. A.J. Taylor has a huge day receiving. You're thinking to yourself, oh man, the Badgers must have looked great. But I watched that game from beginning to end. I'm not sure they look that great.
Just watch the second and third and fourth quarters, the third and fourth quarters especially, and you probably thought it was a good game. But yeah, I think Wisconsin's a notoriously slow starting team. Especially the first 2-3 games of the season, they're not going to impress you. Even against lower competition. They do end up getting the win. That's all that matters really. But are the voters in the AP poll going to care? No, they're going to drop Wisconsin.
Yeah, they're probably going to drop again. And, part of that too, we saw Alex Hornibrook at the end of last year in the Orange Bowl. He was the MVP of the Orange Bowl because he played fantastic football. But in this game, in week number 1, so far,
there was nothing really to do. You didn't have to pass the ball too much against them. I mean, like you said, you go and you get Jonathan Taylor his rushing yards. You do end up racking up, I believe it was 417 total rushing yards, which is the best or the most in the Coach Paul Chryst era. So, you have that to hang your hat on, I suppose, and you do get the win and you move on and you go against BYU.
Here's a secret, though, about New Mexico that maybe you didn't know. They're not good.
Oh.
Yeah. So, I'm not sure how impressive it is. It's good that the Badgers get the win. They don't cover if you're interested in those kind of things.
Right.
We'll see how they do against BYU. The team that they're going to play on the road in the Big Ten to start the season is the Iowa Hawkeyes. That is always a tough game, and I wouldn't be surprised if the final score of that game was 6-3.
It's always ugly, and we've seen what Iowa did this week, and it wasn't a pretty win for them. I mean, you go and you get 13-3, and you mark that one off against Iowa State. It's supposed to be this big in-state rivalry, and they hype it up, and then you look at the offense, and you're just like, yeah, that was pretty gross. I mean, Wisconsin does go and play Iowa, and like you said, but when you look at the perception of what the Big Ten is going to be, you want those teams that are in the Big Ten that you have to face, you want them to be awesome. You want them to get big wins, so when you go and play them, you have more to play for. And it looks like, at least according to that score, maybe it's not that impressive.
That's a team that, a Big 12 team that they end up beating there in Iowa. A former Big 12 team, Colorado, they go on the road and they ruin Scott Frost's debut at Tom Osborne Field in Nebraska. Colorado wins at Nebraska, who also loses their starting quarterback during that game. Pretty underwhelming performance by the Cornhuskers, who have been pretty underwhelming basically since joining the Big Ten.
Well, I know a couple of people that really enjoy watching Nebraska football, but maybe not so much after that week, and you start going, man, that was our debut of the new coach. Okay, that's not pretty.
Not so good, yeah. So Nebraska a loser, Northwestern a loser at home against Duke. Some people were pretty high on that Wildcat football team before the season started. They didn't look good at all yesterday.
Well, I guess the one thing they have going for them when Wisconsin does end up facing Northwestern on the road is Wisconsin doesn't play well there, historically speaking. And this is going to be, now a Northwestern team that maybe isn't as good as you would anticipate, but there's always something to say for those Big Ten rivalries, those games when you're just, maybe not too excited to play in a stadium that's kind of boring and doesn't feel like the Big Ten stadium. So, I suppose you just got to see, and I hate saying it, but you got to wait and see.
Big Ten West continued to underwhelm yesterday. Purdue losing at home against Eastern Michigan, a MAC school. Yeah, not good, as it looks like the Badgers are the cream of the crop in the Big Ten West, but that's like being like the tallest midget or, little person, however the saying actually goes. So we go from the Big Ten West over to the Big Ten East, where, there's a lot more controversy, I guess, in the Big Ten East with some of the schools over there, Ohio State, Maryland, Rutgers, Penn State, all of that kind of stuff going on. But Ohio State crushes Rutgers. Just Ohio State being Ohio State with Urban Meyer or not.
I'm going to look at this game. What happened here, Michigan State? You were supposed to be good.
Michigan State was up 10 in the fourth quarter in that game. They ended up losing to a Herm Edwards team. Actually, when that game finished, it was after midnight in the Eastern time zone where Michigan State comes from. That was an after bedtime kind of game for the Spartans.
Yeah, well, they should have just gone to sleep.
Right.
People were watching that. There was nothing really to say about that one. Yeah, Penn State gets a win against Pitt. Iowa, as we had brought that game up at Ohio State, yeah, we were talking before we came on air about, is Wisconsin and Ohio State on the same level, and they kind of been switching back and forth in the polls and ranking-wise, but I mean, you're right. Yeah, you're supposed to beat Rutgers, but that's how you're supposed to beat Rutgers.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, you got to do it in an impressive fashion. They did it impressively, even without Urban Meyer. A lot of it with a backup quarterback as well. Ohio State looks pretty legit. Luckily, the Badgers don't have to face them this year, but they do have road games at Iowa, at Michigan, at Penn State. Penn State a big winner against Pitt. So it's going to be a tough road to hoe for the Badgers this year in the Big Ten.
It will. So you have that quality schedule to look ahead to, but then, as we've seen from last year where Wisconsin's schedule was supposedly super easy, I mean, you still have to play those games, and some of those games like Northwestern don't look as hard now.
Absolutely. So, hey, good stuff, Eric. Appreciate it.
Do it again
That's
next
your Big
week.
Ten report. Yeah, brought to us by Jason's Deli.